It's hard to believe that it's been 5 years since Critical Role began its epic journey and brought us along for the ride. And it is no surprise that critters have been chomping at the bit, especially at least those of us who are gamers. It is no surprise that we have been chomping at the bit to have our turn in exploring this amazing world that Matt Mercer and his crew have created for us to enjoy. And so today we're going to talk about the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount. Now remember, guys, if you like what I'm doing here, please, by all means, hit like, subscribe, and share with your friends. And if you have any suggestions, number one, for things that I should cover or elements of the book that you feel like you would like to hear more about, or any book that you want to hear about, then please go ahead and write that in the comments down below. Also, if there are books that you want to hear a review of, by all means, put that in the comments down below as well. I will go ahead and put those together and do my best to give you guys what you're looking for. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get on with this product review. Now, typically, when I do a review of a product like this, I talk about the content as well and what I think of the content. However, if you are watching this video, chances are you've already made up your mind about whether or not you want to enjoy this book. And so today's review will focus more on whether or not this book makes a good reference document for you to be able to create your own adventures and characters within this world. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. This book here has 304 pages, 7 chapters, and contains over 20 maps for you to enjoy and create your own adventures. The chapters go from the intro and give you the idea of what the world is about. We talk about a little bit about the history of the world. It covers factions and societies. The talks about the Wildemount Gazetteer, which gives you more specific information about the different regions and cities within, or basically the geography of this world. We have the adventures in Wildemount, and they actually give you adventure seeds for you to begin your own adventures to help you out. On top of that, they'll talk about treasures, what kind of magical items are specific to this setting, and lastly, they cover a bestiary and let you know what animals you can and creatures that you can expect to find when exploring this world. Now, the intro is a quick 5 pages to give you an idea, if you haven't been to this world before, exactly what you're getting yourself into. And then it jumps straight into chapter 1, which covers the history of Wildemount. And this goes all the way from discussing some of the creation myths held by by the different peoples of the world, all the way through the calamity, and then, of course, beyond. Once we jump into chapter 2, we talks about the different factions and societies, and this is where they take the opportunity to discuss the different religious sects, the different empires like the Dwendalian Empire, the Kryn Dynasty, and all the other smaller groups out there that are worthy of exploration. I rather particularly enjoyed this section because it's really nice to get a chance to actually see all of that detail written down in a format that's easier to digest, or so that you don't have to sit there and have had seen every single episode in order to get a good feel for what it is that that these different factions are about. Once we got through chapter 2, chapter 3 takes us. They call it the Wildemount Gazetteer, but really what it is the geography section. And I like this section a lot, and I always take a lot of time with this section of any source book because this is where I am able to draw details out in order to create my own worlds and communicate the feel of these different areas to my players. Because honestly, if we didn't take the time to explain these kinds of things and set the mood and the feel for these different areas, then every place in the world that you are exploring would feel pretty much the same. And I really enjoy the detail that they go into this because in these different chapters, and actually I'm going to go ahead and pull an example straight from here. So they'll talk about, like when they talk about Broken Bank, first thing they do is they talk about population, what percentage is what, 74% human, 9% tabaxi, 6% dwarf, and 11% other races. Now, I always find it interesting that they go ahead and they give you specific racial breakdowns because that will help set a feel for it as well. Because if we didn't have 10% of if 10% of the population is tabaxi, then that's going to have a certain influence over the culture of the area. They talk about government, who runs it, what are the name of the different people that and enforcement that they have there, their defense capabilities, commerce. What is it that this place is famous for? A fish market is going to be very different in feel than, say, a foundry. And these are important details that I, as a game master, like to have in order to be able to communicate those to my players. What organizations work within this particular area? The government, crime. I think crime is an excellent thing to add in there because you don't always see that in a particular or any source book. It's like, well, okay, here are the types of crimes that you're likely to see in this particular area. And of course, the overall geography is covered as well. And, all of these different details that they've put in this book really do help the game master, to help the players build their world and be able to communicate these things to each other and make every location in the world feel different. And I think that's important. Now, in chapter 4 is where I think a lot of players are going to get excited, because that is the character options chapter of the book. And in here, they take the time not only to talk about stuff that are specific to the Wildemount setting, but also they take the time to talk about how all the traditional races fit into this setting as well. And so this has got to be one of the most generous character options sections I've seen in a book, because it's just a chapter, not a standalone supplement. They go ahead and talk about the Arakokra, the Aasimar, the Furbolgs, Genasi, Goblins, Goliaths, Kenku, Turtles, Elves, Dwarves. I mean, there is all kinds of detail that they place in here. And the only thing that kind of interests me is that some of the artwork in here is it is kind of recycled. Like, for example, our little buddy the Furbolg. I've seen this all over the internet, and so it's interesting to see that they did recycle some artwork. But then again, honestly, if it works, it works, right? There clearly aren't a whole lot of options when it comes to artwork for Furbolgs. So Goblinkin get several pages. Kenku get a couple pages worth of information as well. And so they really took a lot of time to provide everyone with the character options that they thought that people wanted. And so once they get into races, then they talk about subclasses, and they've talked about like the hollow ones. They talk about the Echo Knight. There are some, the Graviturgy Mage. So there's a lot of options in here that I think a lot of players are going to get excited to finally get their hands on statistics for some of these very unique classes and subclasses that are part of this very unique world that everyone's so excited about. Dunanmancy, big section on Dunanmancy, spells directly related to that. So backgrounds, there's going to be special backgrounds. They also have adaptations for existing backgrounds in this section of the book. I think that anybody who is a big fan of this realm will be a big fan of this chapter. Chapter 5 covers adventures in Wildemount, or at least that's the title. And really that's also what it is that they give you 4 different adventures that they give you a chance to go through and get a feel for this setting. And I think right here, this kind of took me back, because a lot of times they give you adventure seeds, but this actually gives you 4 fleshed out adventures with maps, with character NPC stat blocks, the whole thing. And so the deeper I got into this book, the more I realized that this was actually several supplements in one, because they talk about the world itself, they talked about character options, and now they have adventures built into this book as well. So they really took the time to give you everything that you need to run adventures in this setting all in one book. And that has not been the trend. So I have to give it up to our friends over here at Critical Role for creating this tome, this source book that is actually 3 or 4 source books all built into one. And there's very few supplements I've seen that have this much detail and this much material put into it all together at once. So big ups to the folks over at Critical Role for putting all this together. Lastly, in the last chapter after these adventures are going to be the Bestiary. And in the bestiary, we are going to see it's not a super beefy bestiary, but it does give you some of the very specific creatures that that you've seen in the adventures. And so it's nice to see like the moorbounders and the horizon-back tortoise. These creatures are giving statistics, and we're allowed, and actually some pretty badass artwork as well, to show us what these things look like, what they what their actual game statistics are, and so all in all. I want to go ahead and close out by talking about my overall impressions of this book. Retail price on this book is $49.95. I didn't even pay that much. I pre-ordered this book. I got it for like $29 plus tax, and I would have felt like I got my money's worth having paid the $50 instead of getting it for 30. So honestly, I think that this is probably one of the best value supplements I've gotten in a long time. As I said before, this could easily have been broken up into 3 different supplements, and instead they give it to you all in one. This book is thicker than the Player's Handbook. It's thicker than the GM's Guide. I think that the art direction on it is pretty fantastic as well. They've pulled artwork from so many different artists, and they've got artwork that was pulled from the comic book or the graphic novels, because we're adults now, right? We don't read comic books anymore. Yeah, we do. We totally read comic books. But anyway, great artwork in here. It's well put together. As a product itself, I think that Wizards of the Coast has really been upping their game as far as giving you quality books that are going to stand the test of time. I was a little bummed, unfortunately, when I bought mine through Amazon, and yeah, I know, I could have bought it at a local store, but I was being lazy. I just wanted it delivered to my house. So, and I probably would have avoided this whole problem here, where there was a ding in the book on both the front and the back covers. I think that happened in shipping. So, but overall, this is an amazing book. It is a really good source book if you're looking to explore this world. I think that anybody, whether you paid $50 for it or you're taking advantage of one of the sales that's going on right now because of the stuff that's going on in the world, a lot of places are trying to give you things that you can do from home. So I cannot wait to try this with my group. As you guys many of you are probably aware, I do play in a couple of different games. Actually, I play in 4 different games right now, and I run 3 of them. But I'm looking forward to finding a group to play this with and enjoy this setting, explore, and have our own adventures exploring the world of Wildemount. If you like what you see here today, please hit like, subscribe, tell your friends about it. If you don't like what's going on here, let me know. Tell me what I can do to, what you think can be done better in these reviews, as well as, if you don't like me as a person, hey, you think I have a stupid face, hey, let me know, because I love trolls. Come on, troll me. I dare you. Anyway, with that said, thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope you enjoyed what I did here. And I guess I'll see you around the table next time. Rum timmy tum tum, rum tum timmy tum tum tum. It's hard to believe. It is hard to believe.